All right, let's see how inverses and finding the inverse of functions in real life. We know the amount in pounds of dog food needed to feed X dogs, so X is for dogs, is given by this function. When they say find f of 6, that means, of course, X is good. So we could put 3 times our 6 in for X and add 5, and that gives us 23. They're going to ask you, what does that mean in the context of the situation? Well, that means 6 dogs, because X is for dogs, need 23 pounds of food. Now, they're going to give us an F inverse of 32. So remember, the inverse is kind of like the reverse or the opposite. So when X used to stand for dogs, since X was dogs and Y was pounds of food, if you're doing the inverse, it's going to be backwards. The X and Y switch, remember? So Y will be dogs if you would have an equation, and X would be pounds of food. So in this case, think about it, 32 would be a lot of dogs. And since we're using the inverse, they're saying work backwards. Well, if you actually want to find the inverse function of this, we could do that over here. We've done that before. Y equals 3x plus 5. I would switch my x's and my y's. And to get y alone now, I would subtract 5 from both sides and get x minus 5 equals 3y. And then divide by 3 on both sides. So my inverse equation, if I wanted one, would be here. That would be my inverse function. So I can put 32 into here, right there, and solve for it. 32 take away 5 over 3 would be 27 over 3, which would be 9. So that would be 9 dogs. So in the context of the situation, 9 dogs would require the 32 pounds of food. Now, you don't have to make this equation over here. Nobody said you had to. I think that might actually come up on the next slide. We may be done. But remember, if they want the inverse, it means you're actually plugging it in. This is the x value that you would plug in to the inverse equation. So it's actually the y value on the original equation. So now that would be a little bit easier. You don't even have to make the inverse function. You could see where we're going to get that same answer. Okay. And I think, again, I might have already done this one. Right, write the inverse equation for F inverse. So again, I did the x and y switching. I'm just going to go back and highlight that. The inverse function to 3x plus 5 would be right here, x minus 5 all over 3. Remember, inverse like reverse. If you're going to times by 3, then add 5, to reverse that, you take your answer and then subtract 5 first, and then divide by 3. It's just a reversed process.